You open your eyes. No buzzing, no schedule, no glowing screen demanding your soul. Just silence, just you. And then it creeps in. That strange weight in your chest, a hollow ache that isn't about company, but about being seen, being valued by someone, by anyone. Ever felt that? In silence, most men panic. They grab their phones, message the wrong person, scroll endlessly, searching for oxygen in notifications, because society trained you to believe silence means failure. No texts, no one checking on you, then you're not enough, unwanted, invisible. But what if silence isn't rejection? What if it's a summons, a call most men never answer, because we were taught that solitude is a curse? But no one ever told you what lives on the other side of silence, when you stop running and you let stillness speak. Here's the truth: the man who owns his solitude, who chooses to stand alone, is not weak. He's fortified because he's quietly crafting something unseen, something unshakable. But this path is not for everyone. It's for the man who's done being overlooked, done begging for a seat at the table, done shrinking himself to fit places too small for his soul. This is for the man who's ready to stop fleeing and finally start flourishing. In a world addicted to noise and desperate for attention, the man who embraces stillness becomes unmistakable. This isn't withdrawal. This is resurgence. You're not retreating from life, you're finally reclaiming yourself. Too many men wander through lovers, jobs, shallow connections, chasing validation like breath. But when will you pause and ask, what if I just stayed? What if I faced myself? The answer: evolution. Your vision sharpens, conviction solidifies, your boundaries rise. And the irony? The moment you stop demanding others see your worth, they do. Before we go deeper, take a moment. Write this in the comments below like a vow to yourself. I choose solitude to build my strength, not for applause, but because you're done pretending, because you're done chasing, because you're ready to transform. We walked through the doorway of stillness. Now, it's time to face what lies on the other side. You. Write it down. Mean every word. Let's begin. 1. The terror of silence. You're in the dark. No alerts, no calendar, no one calling your name, just your breath and the weight pressing beneath it. Your mind. Most men don't fear being alone. They fear what they'll discover in the silence. Because silence, real silence, doesn't bring loneliness, it brings truth. Silence isn't empty. It exposes. It doesn't yell. It doesn't judge. It simply opens the door to everything you've buried, the regrets you shelved, the choices you avoided, the person you swore you'd become, but never did, and suddenly it all returns. Uninvited, raw, real. The dreams you let die, the chances you never took, the promises you broke. When no one was watching, you want to turn away, but there's nowhere left to hide. No small talk, no romance, no mask, only you and the truth you've outrun for too long. Now comes the decision you can't sidestep. Will you face it or flee? Once more, this is why so many men keep running, switching partners, chasing goals, drowning in distractions. Not to build, but to escape. Not from others, but from themselves. Because silence rips away the disguise. And once it does, you have only two choices: break or rise. At first, silence is brutal. It squeezes your chest. It screams doubts louder than any critic ever could. You're not enough. You'll be forgotten. None of it matters. But if you don't, run. If you let the storm rage while you remain, something shifts. You realize you're still standing, still breathing, still capable. And those thoughts, they're not you. They're echoes, old recordings. They call your name, but you don't have to answer. Then comes clarity. Not with fireworks, but with calm certainty. You are not your failures, not the love you lost, not the fall you took. You are the one who stayed, who didn't look away, who stood through the fire. That's rare. That's power. That's true resilience. Transformation doesn't begin at the gym, not in books, not in videos or quotes. It begins in the stillness, It begins when you finally choose to sit down. With yourself, you let the chaos come. Let it howl. Let it rip apart every lie you ever told yourself, and you stay. You don't rush to fill the emptiness, you let it breathe. And in that surrender, you touch what few ever do, sovereignty over your own mind. From that silence, a new voice emerges, not loud but steady, not perfect but honest. And when you step forward again, you walk with intention. Your words carry weight. You faced yourself in silence. Now, you don't become someone else, you return to who you truly are. Your presence begins to carry gravity. Not because you've conquered the world, but because you've come back to yourself. And that makes you undeniable. The world doesn't need more men fading into the background. It needs men who can sit in solitude and then rise with vision. Because a man like that, he doesn't chase, he doesn't perform, he doesn't beg to be seen, because his energy doesn't plead. It commands. 2. Detoxing from the need for approval. Most men aren't addicted to substances or speed. They're hooked on something much more subtle. Approval. At dawn, they reach for their phones not for news, but to check, did she text? Did anyone like my post? Do I matter today? It feels harmless, but it's not. It's poison, masked as connection. Addiction dressed up as routine. And the danger? There are no warning signs, no rehab, no crash alarms. Yet slowly, it corrodes you. Not just your choices, but your very self. When you chase approval, you shrink. You say yes when you mean no. You smile while you're numb. You dodge truth, avoid solitude, cling to crowds. All to escape that sharp little sting, rejection. You call it survival, but it's actually surrender. You trade your truth for comfort, your fire for polite nods, your sovereignty for a seat at their table. And one day, you wake up caged. The walls are wallpapered with praise, but you're frozen inside, a puppet of other people's expectations, not the man you were meant to be. Here's the trap. Approval is like a sugar rush. It spikes and it crashes, and just like any drug, it demands more applause, more proof, more performance. You don't break because you're weak. You break because pretending is exhausting. Masks weigh far more than you think. But there is another way. Not easier, but real. It starts with withdrawal, an approval cleanse. You leave the phone untouched. You stop bending your words to fit the room. You stare straight at the brutal question, is this really me, or just my hunger to be liked? That question cracks the mask. You stop trading real no's for cheap yeses. You stop lowering your standards to fit small minds. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. And in that stillness, you begin to find strength in silence and in self-assurance. At first, it feels like walking into a great unknown. The silence unsettles, the space feels endless, and the old fear whispers, what if they walk away? But you stay. You let the discomfort shape you, and slowly a deeper voice emerges, not loud, not needy, just steady. That voice, buried under years of pretending, begins to rise. It speaks, not for applause, but because silence is no longer an option. When that true voice inside you speaks, not for applause, but from clarity, that's when the transformation begins. Then it begins. The transformation. You no longer reach out just to stay in someone's memory. You no longer force the smile, no longer drain yourself trying to maintain a false image. You start to prioritize your time, your authenticity, your inner peace, and people begin to notice. You now carry a kind of weight, a quiet gravity, a gaze that's calm but sharp. You're not stepping into the spotlight, but somehow, the spotlight finds you. That's the irony. When you stop trying to be seen, you become unforgettable. Men chasing approval fade into the crowd, but the man who stands rooted in who he is, he stands apart, not because he shouts, but because he speaks with conviction. You know your values, you know your boundaries, and above all, you know who you are when no one's looking. That is the man who leaves a mark, not because he demanded attention, but because he didn't need it. Letting go of the need for approval isn't neat or painless. It means losing hollow relationships, polite but empty conversations, praise that passes through like a breeze. But what you gain is real. Respect that's earned, not begged for. Peace, not from hiding, but from standing your ground. And power, not over others, but from knowing yourself. Ask yourself, are you still bending to fit someone else's mold? Still twisting to keep others comfortable? Or are you finally ready to choose you? Because once you truly do, everything changes. The chase stops. The explanations end. The performance fades. And you just and the world can't help but notice. Clarity comes through solitude. There comes a time when all the noise around you fades. Messages, pressure, judgments, small talk. And what's left is silence, not empty, not awkward, just still. And in that stillness, something shifts. The fog lifts. Not because the world changed, but because you stepped back from it. You muted the noise, the demands, the chatter, and finally, you hear what's always been there. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's rebirth, a stripping away of everything that isn't you, until only what's real remains. In the chaos, you react, you rush, you lose yourself in the noise, but in stillness, you return. You remember who you are when no one else is shaping you, and that's where true strength begins. You've bent, you've blended, you've played the part, measuring yourself with borrowed rulers. But in solitude, the chaos fades. You learn to pause, not pounce, to observe, not overreact. You begin to see what you've allowed to occupy your thoughts, your time, your soul. Once you begin to truly hear yourself, clarity arrives, and with it, an awakening. A revelation strikes like lightning in the calm, that so much of what filled your mind was never truly yours. The ambitions, borrowed, the lifestyle, adopted, even your idea of success, inherited. You were sprinting toward a finish line drawn by someone else. But then, when you step back, when the notifications go quiet, the calendar clears, and the noise of the world fades, something unexpected emerges. Not fear, not emptiness, but vision, and with it, new questions rise. Not, what will they think? But, what truly sets me on fire? Not, how can I please them? But, what is quietly draining my soul? Who do I become around different people? And do I respect that version of myself? Solitude gives you the courage to sit with those questions. No distractions, no deadlines, no applause needed. Just you and a raw honesty that can't be ignored. You let silence speak. You begin to unearth truths you once buried. You breathe through the discomfort, and slowly the fog begins to lift. The pretending ends. You stop nodding along with what grates your spirit. You stop maintaining connections that leave you emptied. No more self-betrayal for the sake of comfort. Instead, you begin to live in alignment. Not perfect, but real. Not polished, but true. No leaves your lips without apology. Space no longer means coldness. It means discernment. Goodbyes aren't bitter. They're breakthroughs. Solitude doesn't just declutter your mind. It sharpens your perception. You stop floating through days. You begin to steer them. Your habits serve your purpose. Your circle reflects your truth. Your life becomes an extension of your real self. Your world begins to mirror who you are, not who you pretended to be. Then comes another shift. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand. No debates, no defenses. You just live, and your very existence becomes the proof. That's when you know you've outgrown the drama. Money Pulati. Can't touch you. Superficial talk doesn't move you. You're anchored, and that anchor makes you unshakable. Yes, people may challenge you. They may misinterpret you. Some will leave, and still, you stand firm. Because your life is no longer about their approval. It's in harmony with the man you were always meant to become. This is the true power of solitude. It burns away distractions. It silences the world. It destroys every false version of you that never belonged. And what remains? A man with quiet certainty in his heart and clarity in every step. After shedding every false version of yourself, you rise with no need to explain. no urge to prove. And from that stillness, you begin to live as a man who's already chosen himself. He doesn't speak for applause. He only speaks when his words carry weight. He doesn't chase. He creates. And most of all, he no longer needs to be understood, because he understands himself. So if your world feels too quiet right now, if things seem to be slowing down, fading into stillness, don't fear it, because that silence isn't emptiness. It's the space where your true self finally breathes. It's not absence, it's an invitation. Your life is whispering to you. Pause and truly listen. You don't need more outside validation. Not more likes, not more replies, not fleeting attention or endless noise. What you're really craving is depth, stillness, solitude. Those raw, real moments alone where you finally confront the man you've neglected, yourself. The man who walks alone isn't broken. He's sculpting, not escaping the world, but reclaiming his center, refining, sharpening, burning away everything he was never meant to carry. His stride doesn't beg, choose me. It declares, I've already chosen myself, and when you embody that energy, life begins to shift around you. The right people take root, the wrong ones fall away. Opportunities stop needing to be chased, they begin to gravitate. This isn't luck, it's sovereignty. If this silence stirred something primal in you, don't scroll past. Pause. Comment below. What's one distraction you're ready to release today? Hit like, not for entertainment, but because something here ignited something in you. And subscribe, not because you're chasing clout, but because you're ready to forge real power, clarity, discipline, and an unshakable presence. At Stoicism Philosophy Daily, we don't beg for approval. We build men who lead from within.